I think you really have to detach that emotional aspect to it.
Yeah.
And then, especially if it's your personal home and you're moving out of state, but you had that 3% mortgage rate on it, so it makes no sense to sell it anyway.
Welcome back to Cash Flow, the podcast where we talk about turning properties into profits. I'm your host, Jason Yoss. Today, I have a very special guest, Director of Operations at Golden West Management, Mr. Roy True.
Thank you for having me on, Jason.
Roy, it's been too long, and I wanted to have you on for such a long time so we can talk a little bit about, what it's like to get under the hood of a property management company. More importantly, what's the inside baseball if you're a client, if you're an asset manager, if you're a landlord and you hire a property manager. Hey, no better source of information than someone who runs basically the day-to-day operations of a property management company, 1,000+ stores, 3 states, 30 employees. So I figured that if you were on here, you might be able to shed some light.
Sure, yeah. I think I've had experiences with all types of landlords and, the different categories or buckets we put those types of landlords into.
Fair enough.
So, I mean, it's really, I think, like you said, I mean, the expectation of what a client has on the front end versus what the actual product looks like.
Absolutely.
Right? So I think the biggest thing for landlords looking into it, okay, where are you? What's your basis? What's your goal?
Well, before we talk about landlords, and I agree, and I want to get into it, I want the first question we always get is like, well, what's your experience? Before they say what's your price, like, well, why should I choose you? I want to talk about you for a second.
Okay.
How long you been doing this?
It's about a decade. Yeah.
And
before that, I was actually when Jason started the company, we call it like a service rep. I started an internship program for the University of Arizona.
Bear down, go Cats.
Go Cats, bear down. And Jason he had his broker's license, and he had started into property management, needed somebody boots on the ground to run around and I was moving refrigerators and posting notices and you name it, and learning property management 101 from the basics. And I think back then, like, we would put ads in like the Daily Wildcat.
We did. Yeah, that's right.
It was before the internet. Yeah.
Not
really before the internet, but like before,
We still did newspaper ads back then.
Ads,
that is correct. That is regional development at the Harvard of the Southwest, University of Arizona. So
that's right.
Great pedigree for Roy. And then spent a lot of years at Enterprise.
Yeah, I did. I moved up through their like management training program,
corporate training,
corporate. Yeah. So I mean, I think their model actually got. I think Target took their model. A lot of the bigger corporations that do management training and build from the ground up have taken their model over the years, and it's really they focus on teaching everybody from like your basic you're 21 years old out of college, 22 to how to grow up and manage other people and you grow through that position if you're good at what you do, which a lot of it results on sales and customer service, and it's very much a customer service focused business where you're kind of force fed into a different culture, right? Like I can't get it out of my head not to answer the phone within 2 rings.
That's right.
It's in my blood since then. So I was I was very fortunate. I got promoted 3-4 times altogether. Within about a 6-year span, ended as a district manager where I had about 5 different stores that I oversaw.
Right.
And then, once you get to that pyramid type of company, there's only so many spots at the top.
Only so much Colorado that you can handle.
Yeah, and then, I circled back around with Jason and talked to him about, I wanted to, get out of Colorado, move back to California where my family's at, and as reached out, hey, do you have any opportunity? And Jason, at the time, really, was like, I'm just rocking this store this office, and he didn't really necessarily need me, so kind of went back into doing some service rep stuff, and then rolled into the business development role, which is our onboarding and bringing on new landlords and clients.
And the business development role, the big key, obviously, I think you're great at being a salesperson, business development manager, someone who onboards new clients because of how personable you are. I mean, people love to buy and work with people they like. You're the teddy bear for a reason. But more importantly, I think it sets you up for success when later on you transitioned into an operations role, because you got to see everybody's pains when they were coming on board. Like, what's the number one thing, or what are the couple of things you would hear on a regular basis from prospective clients?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I'm that guy that everybody stops, like, where's the bathroom? Or like, they think I just have that face, I guess. Actually happened on the way in here. Somebody asked me where the restroom was. People just I don't know.
Everybody thinks you're friendly. They want to talk to you.
Everybody thinks they're friendly, I guess, yeah. But,
the bathroom too, yes.
No, to your point, yeah, it definitely gave me a different perspective on what clients are looking for and what our level of customer service should be, and where to be upfront and set expectations correctly with our clients onboarding.
Right.
You know, I mean, the truth is we can manage any property.
That's true.
But we can't manage any client, right?
That's true.
If you're
well, what do you normally hear? Like,
number one complaint. Oh, of course. I mean, obviously one of the biggest heartburns is maintenance, right? Nobody likes to fix anything on the property, but it's mainly on communication.
So when landlords or prospective landlords call, whether it be somebody who's an asset manager role, or they're an accidental landlord, they're moving out of state and they got a condo they need rented. No. Some of the main things they say is maintenance.
I can never get hold of my manager.
I can never get hold of my manager.
I can never get hold of my manager. Probably number one. I just paid,
which is crazy in today's day and age.
Right. And then, they did all these things, and I feel like the maintenance costs were too expensive, and, the cost, those are the biggest ones, though. It's communications, and then how they handle maintenance is one of probably the second heartburn. And then the worst case scenario ones are where they just did not get a good job done by the manager.
Right.
You got some really, without going into too many details on, I could give you, 150 different examples of this, but, where the manager made some flawed mistakes, and that manager may have happened to have been like smaller outfit, just not experienced, and made some poor choices or poor decisions that put them in the situation they were in.
It's crazy to think that another management company making poor decisions is a big part of what we see from new onboarding clients, but that the reality is that the main issue that people have is just like, hey, I can't get a hold of anybody.
Right. Number one complaint is I cannot get a hold of my manager.
It's not that they did a terrible job. It's just maybe they made a mistake here or there, but anytime the owner reached out, they can't get a hold of somebody.
Yeah, I mean, but speaking of that, like to rebuke them, it's like, well, are you calling them at midnight on Saturday night, or what's your expectations? Trying to dig into expectations. What was the expectation set? So
let's talk about setting expectations for clients. I mean, now being in the director of operations role, and you've been doing it for quite some time, what do you like to tell landlords, asset managers, when they come on board to set them up for success? What are one or two basics? Like, hey, if you follow these guidelines, if you do X, Y, and Z, if this is your expectation, not only can we deliver, but you're going to be much happier in the management.
Right. I think one of the main points that we push is a 1 business day response time frame.
Yeah.
So, they may be calling something's on fire to them because they just, for the first time in, a month or two.
I read my statement and I saw this,
or, I didn't see the emails you were sending or the calls, I missed. I've been out on vacation, whatever the case may be. And, they have a situation that's happening. They want to know the answer immediately. And it may be something that we need to do our time on researching before we are able to fully answer the question in detail, right? So, and plus we're out in the market, right? We're at properties. We're not always just sitting at our desk ready to take phone calls. So we do have support staff that answers the phone immediately and gets the message delivered. But setting that expectation of 1 business day, and then being honest, hey, if this is something we need to look into, it could take us a longer time than that, and just setting up the proper follow-up, it's very helpful.
I would give anybody in any business that same advice. Like, hey, if you tell someone you're going to get back to them, even if you don't have the answer, you should get back to them and say, look, I've been doing my research, and I don't have it yet. Give me X amount more time. One of the total don'ts you shouldn't do is just like, I'll get back to you right away, or let me research and get back to you. Like, no time frame, because your right away may be way different than a client's right away. So 1 business day is good expectation. I like that.
And I think that most people respect that. We do have families at home, and we do this is our job, and we have set office hours, 9 to 5, that we try to get them into that window if it's something they want to review. Statement wise, obviously we have on call for emergency, right? Emergency fire, flood, and blood situations do happen, right?
Do you think it's because a lot of these clients come from their realtor, or they're referred by realtors, or they're used to with their first real estate dealing with a realtor, who realtors are, and God bless realtors, they're on call, attached to their phone 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, where a property manager, look, if it is not an emergency, like, we're going to operate during normal business hours. So, like, hey, I need to talk to you at, like, Friday at 9. Like, it's like, is something on fire? It's not? Okay, well, can this wait?
Yeah, I mean, if we had time to be at, doing lunches and working out during the day to stimulate our interaction on our social medias, we would be, but we're working literally 9 to 5 Monday through Friday. So it's a full-time position being a property manager versus real estate agent. It's, the business comes as it comes, right? It may come at 7 o'clock at night. It may come, and that's just a sales specific role versus a day-to-day. And I think a lot of challenges are, inbound clients that have a real estate that's, quote unquote, managing their property, as they don't know, they don't do this on a daily basis.
Yeah, they don't have that same expectation of, like, well, my realtor will call me back whenever. Like, but there's a reason you're looking for a property manager. There's other things they're not doing. So I mean, it does make sense. I've been having a lot of social media interactions, whether it's this recent one on LinkedIn with clients, or people out in the Twitter sphere or whatever, talking about proper expectations. When you hire a manager, if you think that they're your employee, or they're there to do what you direct them to, I don't think you're going to be set up for success. I really think that this is a partnership relationship, number one, and that we need to be given the room as the property manager to operate effectively. I just see so much mindset different. Like, well, if you didn't make mistakes, I wouldn't have to call you 4 times a month. It's like, wait a minute, you should never have to call me 4 times a month.
Yeah.
Unless something's on fire, you should never have to call me 4 times a month. Once a month makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, anybody who's managing an asset for you, or your finances, or, I mean, if you called your bank every single day, or your financial advisor every single day about fluctuations in the stock market, I mean, you have to look at your property. It's an investment vehicle. And let the professionals handle it. And hey, mistakes are going to happen from your financial advisor, 100%.
From your mechanic.
I mean, but it's not a 2 cooks in the kitchen type of, like, one person needs to be the focal point to the tenant, making the decisions based off of experience. And, you may have managed 1-2 houses. We've managed thousands of homes of all shapes and sizes, handled tenant situations of all magnitudes, from nuclear down to just the minimal customer service. So
I agree. And I'll caveat it with it, just to be clear. Hey, like, that doesn't mean we're perfect.
Of course.
Or any property manager, or any vendor, or any partner is going to be perfect. And it also doesn't mean that we're not listening to our clients. But if you wanted an order taker in the property management role, if you're hiring a property manager, I don't think you're going to be set yourself up for success.
Right. I mean, some of our most valued clients that have been with us over 10 plus years, they trust us to where, I mean, the interactions, it's like they're looking forward not to hearing from me almost. Like, they know when I'm calling, it's for something that we've got a serious situation we've got to handle. Usually it's a major maintenance event, or replacing an HVAC out in one of our desert markets, Arizona, Las Vegas. But I mean, those interactions, just the trust curve with your manager, it really starts off from the beginning. But setting the expectations on communication is number one, right? Yeah. Text message is not our preferred means of communication for a reason. I mean, phone, email, like, emergency, call me, like, but it's all about setting the proper expectations, and then treating your property manager employee. It's just it's why have the property manager? Yeah. If you want to do everything yourself, and you think that you're doing right, why are you reaching out for help in the first place?
Yeah. Or that mindset of, like, well, I just need you to lease it, or I just need this, I just need that. Yeah. I will establish this guideline with clients all the time. Most of our clients, and definitely our asset managers who bring us multifamily, they're probably making more than $50 an hour in their day job. And the truth of the matter is that on average, you're going to input roughly about 4 hours a month in managing. So at a minimum, it's $200 a month of your time, energy, and effort that if you do it on your own and you don't have the same experience, skill set, know-how, and some of the same tools. And again, that doesn't mean you can't do it. People change their own oil all the time. But on a grander scale, and definitely if you want to grow an investment portfolio, you can't compete and be as effective or be as successful without having like a property manager. But yet still all the time we come up with 3 or 4 scenarios where we're like, you have a client who's just insists on doing it their way. What do you think the biggest one is?
That's a great question. I think mostly it probably revolves around maintenance. Like I think I can save more money if I go do this repair myself. And it's
Got it.
And then I know you can speak to this because we've done the math on it, and you kind of alluded to it. You know, most of our clients are making anywhere between $50 and $100 an hour. So you're gonna, most of our clients could be out-of-state owners, absentee.
Yeah, that too.
So you're gonna fly out to the property to go fix a sprinkler head. Like let's just wrap our heads around that. I think that.
Or I'm gonna go on Google and Craigslist to call somebody I don't know, I have no idea what their work is gonna be. They're probably gonna ask me for money up front.
That's probably the number
to save
one thing.
to save maybe to save 5%, but run the risk of having it completely crash and burn and then having to redo it all over again.
Yeah, and then trying to have me chase down somebody I have no relationship with.
Right.
So the Google find. Yeah.
Well, I found somebody on Craigslist who will do it for half the price. Like,
right.
Yeah, absolutely, I totally understand that. I'm gonna tell you that I agree. Maintenance, and I understand there's a threshold. Like a toilet flapper is a $25 part. I understand what you're talking about, Mr. Owner. Like, why is it $200? Like, you're right, but welcome to America lately, where in a lot of markets they're $50 to $75 an hour for a handyman, not even a plumber, and they have 2-hour minimums, and gas is $5 a gallon. So yeah, they're charging $150 in labor just to go out, check out the place, and go pick up the part, go to Home Depot, replace it out. It's just that's what ends up happening. I understand, like, hey, that's too much money in your head. I don't disagree, but Roy, as you said, like, you're gonna fly out to do it. You're gonna find somebody on Craigslist to do it.
My
Like,
buddy's gonna do it, and then we get in a situation. I could give you 50 different examples of why, like, we don't want your buddy to go to the property. but I mean, we've had inappropriate messages sent to tenants. I mean, we could go on and on down the
they
list.
say the wrong thing. They do the wrong thing. They get in fights.
They put you in a liability.
Yeah,
they put you in a liability situation. So why not have that arm's length distance away from the things that could really get you something that you think you're saving, a couple nickels, $100 on, ends up costing you thousands of dollars in the back end.
And again, you said maintenance. I think that pricing is the biggest thing for me. And look, some properties are definitely they're not cookie cutter, so who knows what the proper market rent is. But what I notice the most is that if you have unrealistic expectations on price and or think that the rent should be based on like what you need to get or your mortgage, that's going to set you up for failure. I mean, the market sets the price, not you or even us. Like, it really is. If you post a property in the right places and you put it at the right price, then you're going to get inquiries. Now, what you do with those inquiries is definitely management driven. But if you're hearing crickets when you post a property, 9 times out of 10, it's the price.
100%. I had this conversation a lot, and sales is the same way. The market is what ultimately dictates the price.
Right.
I can list a property whatever I want to list a property at. I can list a property for $5,000. Doesn't mean anybody's gonna even wink at it.
Yeah.
Right.
If the market says it's $3,500,
The one protection we add, we try to obviously get you the most value we can for your property. Right. We're in the business as a partnership to get you the most value we can, and making sure that we renew at a good rate every year so that we're getting rent increases and the tenants are staying at market rents. But I think you really have to detach that emotional aspect to it. Yeah. And then especially if it's your personal home and you're moving out of state, but you had that 3% mortgage rate on it, so it makes no sense to sell it anyway.
Yeah.
You got to detach. Well, I think I did this extra little, this or that.
I did this upgrade, so it should be worth more. Mine has the pool, so it should be $500 or 20% more than the neighbor.
There's a dog rent on the side that I added, or whatever the case may be. But like Jason said, not everything's cookie cutter. That's why we always recommend a market rent range, and there's so many factors that go into pricing.
Sure.
And it's a conversation that we have to have with our clients on a weekly basis when we're on the market. So the market goes up and down, just like any other industry. Supply and demand,
time of year, type of property, bedroom, bath area, absolutely.
Yeah, I saw a post the other day. We just had the big fires out and we're having the big fires in LA.
Oh yeah, right now.
And somebody put an article out saying that that's going to negatively impact the rental rates. It's going to make the rental rates higher.
Right, because there's not a lot of supply, and there's not a lot of demand.
This is so cruel. This is so evil. How could you raise the rental rates? It's purely an economic driver. I mean, if the supply chain for the beef industry gets cut and the cost of beef goes up, right? So if there's a scarcity on housing, those are going to become more valuable. It's a simple supply. There's nothing about it being cruel.
Yeah, it's all supply and demand driven.
It's all supply demand driven. So
also we have I think this is super important. Just landlords in general and realtors can understand this too. We want to price conservatively because we want a line of people around the block who want to see and apply for the home. Because just like a realtor might look for the best offer, not just the offer that's thrown against the wall and maybe it sticks, but the one that can actually close. We're looking for tenants who can actually afford the place or look good on paper so that not only will they pay the rent on time, but they'll take care of the property like it's their own. And too often when we see landlords stretch or tell us, no, I have to get this, it sits, they get desperate, they end up taking something that isn't perfect on paper. There's pressure on the manager to accept it. The owner's like, I got to get it rented. And next thing you know, you took somebody for maybe 5%, 10% max, less than you wanted, but isn't a good fit, and you pay the price down the line.
Yeah, I think when you overprice, especially when you list it personally as a landlord, I'm always worried for those clients who think that, because the people we call professional tenants in our industry are
scammers,
looking for people listing it on their own that don't know what they're doing. Right.
Most professional listings nowadays by property managers, they have a watermark on the photos. One, because it prevents the photos from being stolen and reposted on Craigslist, on Facebook Marketplace, even on Zillow. Your same property gets stolen and then gets put on the market for half the price, and they scam people. Well, here's the issue. It means now your actual listing isn't getting traffic, and it's probably getting blocked. And so, like you said, private landlords posting their property, not watermarking the photos, they're a target.
They are 100% a target.
Yeah.
And whether they relist it on Facebook Marketplace to try to get people to give them money over online, and people fall for these scams every single day. It's sad. But I mean, pricing is driven by supply and demand. I mean, if you look at the rents we were getting,
the quality of the property,
quality of the property, of course, but look at the rents we were getting in 2021, 2022, and 2023, and we've seen a dip, right? Yeah. So that was a lot of displacement. The sales market was, I mean, every house had a line around the block because of the mortgage interest rate. So the economics drive the market drives itself. We don't set the price, but if your property's not in good shape, right? If you haven't touched it in 15 years and it's got the old, 1990s appliance package, it's not that the property won't rent, but you're not going to get top of the market value for the property. So, and reinvesting in the property and taking care of the tenants while they're there is another thing to talk about in general.
I think that's the third leg of this. So we have, maintenance and a lot of times you get clients who are they feel like nobody's watching out for them on a maintenance side, when reality is like, hey, pricing is, it kind of, to fix something nowadays, the price isn't what it was 5 years ago, 3 years ago. So people, they don't want to fix stuff, or they say, you get a lot of like, well, it wasn't broke before. I think that's only you got a small percentage of clients like that. And then you got a small percentage of clients who have trouble understanding, like, look, the market price of the rent, that you don't get to set it. The market does. And that's how we get good tenants and we get it rented quickly. And when they're on the market 30, 45 days and they're asking the manager, or they're very upset with the manager, it's like, well, who's controlling the price? And I think the last part of it is, like you said, why do you hire a property manager? That landlord-tenant relations. And I'll say that comes up three things. One, do you have the right contract? Because laws are always changing, especially in California. I wish we could all be in Arizona where it's landlord-friendly, but we can't. Always changing, and your contract needs to be updated or you default. Number two, people trying to apply common sense to landlord-tenant problems. It's just common sense doesn't belong here. It's not like that. And number three, people are not able to take the emotion out of a situation. Right. And that's what your manager's supposed to do. They're supposed to solve problems. They're supposed to have your legal back and give you the know-how on how to approach these things, not by common sense, but by like, hey, this is the experience of managing a landlord-tenant situation.
100%. I've seen so many landlords put their foot in their mouth on multiple occasions that usually then end up calling me like, hey, I did this massive thing and I was in the right and the tenant's in the wrong, and then you end up bringing them into reality.
Or I was trying to be nice and
it goes both ways, right?
Yeah.
Like, hey, I was, I was trying to be extra nice, and then I was trying to take care of the tenants, and then they screwed me in the end. Or hey, like I didn't want to take care of this for the tenants, and I think it's their fault. It shouldn't be on me. It should be on them. When you have somebody like your property manager, the whole value of us having and navigating in that, managing that tenant relationship is the value of the service itself.
Right.
So I think that most landlords that have a day job, that are working their normal 9 to 5, are trying to have these calls at 6, 7 o'clock at night, may not be in the best mood, and then they're like, you never know, right? Anytime you pay for a service, you're paying for your time back.
Yeah.
So the value that a property manager brings, not only are you going to have it managed professionally,
right,
you're going to have a higher chance of renewal, right, which means less vacancy for you. You're going to have a higher chance that you're going to have your costs controlled on your maintenance items, and you're going to have a tenant that most likely will take care of the property, right? Like, and you're gonna hit your goal, right? We want a tenancy average of 2 to 3 years, right?
Yeah.
We want to maintain that, and those are our goals that we hit, and we treat your property as if it was our own. I really think that's
personal, definitely personal.
It's a personal thing for us because we want our clients to be our biggest supporters, and I think that at the end of the day, when we're talking about overall, you want to know what a property manager does for you. We wear a lot of hats. Yeah. You know, we have to be counselors. We have to talk to tenants that may not be in the best mental states. We deal with, depending on the market you're in, lower income properties versus higher income properties. You take those two tenants, right? A super high end tenant takes as much time dedication as one of the lower income tenants.
Yeah. So I agree. You're right. A lot of hats. We're your salesperson, we're your general contractor, we're your project manager, we're your counselor, we're your quasi-attorney, we're your admin, we're your accountant for your property, all of the above. And you're right. I think it's a great recap of, look, we love our clients. That's why we're in business. And, 90% of our clients are very understanding of what their service they're paying for, and we go above and beyond. And for those 10% who sometimes are difficult, I think you especially relish in being able to explain to them. But I appreciate you taking the time coming in here today, kind of peeling back the onion, like what it is that we as a property management firm face on a regular basis. And you're right, whether it's a single family townhome condo or a boutique multifamily, think 8 to 80 units. You've had your hand in all of that, 10 years in the game, and you've done a lot.
I love coming on. I know we could talk property management for hours, and we do, but at the end of the day, seeing some of the accomplishments we've had and taking some of these 20-unit complexes that were at 40% occupants when we got them and what they look like now, and just seeing the smile on the client's face, and my true passion of problem solving, and making customers happy. That's at the end of the day, it's what's made us successful, and what we want to continue to do through the next 10, 15 plus years, right?
Teddy Bear. Love it, brother. Roy True, everybody, Director of Optical and West Management. For everybody out there looking for a property manager, make sure you choose wisely and understand that you are hiring someone to provide you with professional service. They might make mistakes, but at the end of the day, they're here to help you raise your bottom line. Tune in again to the Cash Flow Podcast, again, where we talk about turning properties into profits. Thank you, everybody.